Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. We're gonna get started just briefly. I'm just gonna grab a couple more things and then we'll be ready to go. Feel free to give a shout out in the comments if you're cooking along with me. And just also if someone wants to confirm that you can see me and you can hear me and that everything's going great. Thanks, Tiffany, for pointing out the apron. Funny enough, I didn't wear one last time I did one of these, and I was wearing a white shirt, and funny enough, I did not get anything on my white shirt, which was incredible. But today, I figured I would wear an apron to be a little bit more safe. And earlier today, I was cooking without the apron on, and I had already gotten oil on my shirt. So we're wearing an apron on top of the oil that's already there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be making roasted chickpea and broccoli tacos. And this recipe comes from this cookbook, or it's adapted from this cookbook. I changed a couple things. And it's called Thug Kitchen. And I love this cookbook. This is honestly one of my favorite cookbook series. I think they have at least 3, if not more, cookbooks. They're all plant-based. It's all about making plant-based fun. Their catchline, if you can see, is eat like you give a fuck. So they do curse, not for the conservative or easily offended in terms of cursing. So, but this is a really fun cookbook. Their whole goal is to really make vegan cooking attainable and fun, and kind of demystify the vegan cooking process and make it really really tasty. So I really love this this cookbook. So shout out to Thug Kitchen. All right, so we're gonna get started. So you have the ingredient list in the comments. So if anyone's chopping along with me, feel free. I'm gonna start with cutting onion. And as we go, I'm going to just tell you some fun facts about vegetables. That's what I did last time, and so I think I'll do it again. So I looked up some fun facts about vegetables because I was curious. And what I found out about onions is that in the United States, we consume about 450 semi-trucks full of onions every day. And I thought that was incredible. I don't know if you've driven down the highway. I know for a lot of my California friends making the drive from LA to San Francisco a bunch, you would see the produce trucks all the time on the 5 freeway. But any other place in the country where you see produce trucks, it's a lot of produce that can fit in a semi-truck bed. And so this is quite an impressive number of onions. But I think onion is one of the most popularly consumed vegetables because people put in everything, even hamburgers. It's like the one thing that ends up making it on a hamburger. So onions are pretty great. Onions also have a lot of really incredible antimicrobial properties. So especially now when we're still, I know my video last week, we talked a lot about different things to boost the immune system. So again, all vegetables really have properties to boost the immune system, some more than others. And onion is really one of those. So onion, great to throw in just about anything to increase its immune boosting potential. Also, since I work in the area of cancer, onion has a lot of anti-cancer properties. So I would say onion should just be a staple of almost every dish. And I am very fortunate, and I'm sorry for those of you who are not so fortunate. I know that onions oftentimes make people cry, but I am fortunate in that I wear contacts. And for some reason, when I wear my contacts, I have no problem with onions and making me cry. But when I wear my glasses, it's a waterfall. So I tend to like to wear my contacts when I'm cooking onion and cutting onions so that I don't have to cry or hurt my eyes. But a tip on that, so if you are someone who's very sensitive and when you cut onions, it makes you cry, what you can do is rinse your hands frequently. Oftentimes part of it is what is released into the air, but another piece of it is just having it on your skin. And so if you can rinse your hands, rinse your knife off, that can really reduce the amount that you're affected by the onion. And then I learned this from somebody a long time ago, that cutting onion, I think, or cutting in general, often can be a little bit daunting for people because they get to pieces like this where it's really thin, and you just want to, and you don't want to cut your finger, it's slippery. And so he would say, just toss that piece away. Like if that piece is what's scaring you about cooking and about chopping, and that's what's getting in the way, just throw it away. It's not worth it. You have a whole rest of the onion to go. That, or leave bigger chunks. They don't all have to be tiny pieces. Whatever makes you most comfortable in the kitchen to cook. You don't have to follow recipes exactly. You don't have to follow the directions exactly. You're the one who's eating it. So unless you're submitting it for some kind of perfect follow the recipe competition, then you can do whatever you want and nobody will know. So another fun fact about onions I learned that I did not know was that ancient Egyptians used to worship onions. I don't know if it was for their antimicrobial properties or for their blend thinning properties. It made people healthier, and so that's what they were worshipped. But I thought that was pretty cool that ancient Egyptians used to worship onions. All right, so now we're done with onions. And we are going to move on to pepper. So I cut up some red pepper last week, so some of this might be a little bit of a repeat. But peppers are one of the best sources of vitamin C. Oftentimes, oranges get all the publicity for being good for vitamin C, and it's probably due to some lobbying from the orange industry. And oranges do have vitamin C. It's not that they don't. It's just they're not the best source of them. And red pepper is actually one of the best sources. Another fun fact about red bell pepper, or bell peppers in general, is they're the only pepper in the whole pepper family. So all the chilies, all the hot peppers, bell peppers are the only pepper that doesn't have capsaicin in them. And capsaicin is the part that's really spicy. And so that is why they're so sweet, is they actually don't possess that. Versus all other peppers, even you think of like a poblano pepper, which isn't super spicy and often isn't spicy. Every so often you'll get a really spicy one, and they're definitely more spicy than a bell pepper. So we're just gonna chop this up. And then a fun fact about bell peppers is that, or peppers in general, is they're actually a fruit, kind of like tomato. They have seeds, and they are the fruiting body of the plant, and so they are actually a fruit. So that's kind of cool. So right now I'm cutting pieces kind of small. You want to cut things for this recipe. You want to cut things almost the size of a chickpea, just so you get even bites when you have the chickpea in them. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, all depends on what you'd like. So then everything is going to go into a mixing bowl. And for anyone watching, feel free to throw comments or questions up in the comment box as we go, and I'll try to answer your questions. To give a little intro to those who are now with us, so my name is Marissa. I'm a naturopathic doctor here in Portland with a satellite practice opening up in LA soon. And I had this idea of doing these live cooking shows. Well, definitely all the quarantine and stay-at-home orders had something to do with it. And last week I just really decided, hey, like I have to cook anyway. Why not invite people into my kitchen? I usually love cooking with people more than just by myself, but since that's not an option right now, you guys can join me virtually. And I wish I could feed you virtually because that would be really cool. But for now, we'll just have to do this. You guys can cook on your own. So we are going to chop it. But yeah, so I really want to make healthy cooking more attainable for people, and kind of demystify healthy cooking and say, it doesn't have to be some fancy recipe. It can literally just be throwing a bunch of really good tasting vegetables, some really good spices in, and it can be really quick and easy. Oh, one thing I forgot is we should probably, since we're putting stuff in the oven, should probably preheat the oven. Good idea. So I'm going to do that right now. So the recipe calls for preheating it to 420 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And if you watched last week, I took the pans out of the oven this time before I preheated the oven, so I don't have to touch them. Touch them while they're hot. So I'm going to get the oven going. Great. All right. Back to chopping broccoli. So you preheated your oven to 425. So I'm a naturopathic doctor. I really love nutrition. I also have a master's in nutrition. Nutrition is one of my first and honest loves. I love food. I love cooking. I love that food brings people together. People eat together. I love, like I said, I love sharing meals with people. I love cooking for people. It's really just, I love food. So that was kind of the inspiration for making these videos, is it's just to share my passion of food and healthy eating and healthy cooking with others, and hopefully give them some inspiration, especially in this time where we're home anyway. So maybe if you don't usually have time to cook, maybe you can cook. You can cook now. And a lot of the recipes that I cook for myself, and the ones that I will be choosing for these videos, are ones that you can make in really big batches and store for later use. So I'm not, as much as I love cooking, I'm not a huge fan of cooking every day, because it is a lot of work, and you have to, it's a lot of cleanup. And so I like making big batches of food and having it accessible for leftovers later. And so this is a great recipe. It makes a big batch. You can always double recipes to make big batches. Most recipes you can freeze. I freeze just about anything, and it's supposed to come out fine when I thaw them. But this is a really nice one. You can like have the fillings, this chickpea veggie filling, just sitting around in the freezer in big batches, and when you need it, just thaw out a serving or two for dinner, and then you'll be good to go. So I should say that this original recipe from Thug Kitchen itself was a burrito recipe, not a taco recipe. But a couple things. One, I try to avoid wheat, so I didn't want to buy a whole bunch of wheat tortillas, and I already had corn tortillas. And two, I don't know how to wrap a burrito, so tacos are a lot easier if you don't know how to wrap a burrito. So we're gonna make tacos. Now, the cool thing about tacos is that you can put just about anything in a taco. My fiance loves to call tortillas taco skins instead of tortillas. And we went through a phase where we got really into making our own tortillas. And so we got a tortilla press, and we got a griddle, and we just made up huge batches of tortillas. There's also the tortillas that I'm using today are from Three Sisters Nick's Mall, which is a Portland local company, not affiliated, not getting any money. I just really love them. They have really good, high quality, organic corn products, and their masa is incredible. So we got a bunch of their masa, and we were making maybe about 40 different tortillas at once, or like big batches of tortillas, and we would just eat everything in tortillas, to the point where we kind of got sick of tacos. So we took a break there for a while, but now back on the taco game. Okay, so question from John. So, chickpea tacos sound delicious. Have you had walnut tacos, and how do they compare? So that's a great question. So I have had walnut tacos pre-made from a company. I haven't made them myself. I thought it was really good. What they did was, and I think I've also had it at a restaurant, like a nut-based taco chorizo. And I think it's really good. It's a very different texture, very different flavor. So oftentimes the nut tacos, they'll take nuts and they'll crumble them up really fine, almost like a chorizo or chorizo consistency, but more crumbly, not the holding together. They don't hold together as well, but can be done really flavorfully. If you add a lot of spices, and I really like that consistency. So yeah, I would give walnut tacos a thumbs up. I just haven't personally made them, but that's actually a really good idea. I've also seen there was one company that made frozen nut tacos, which was really awesome. And so what they did was, whatever their mixture was, they kind of made like a little log out of it, and that sat in the middle of a little tortilla, and then you could just heat the like microwave the little like nut taco and tortilla, and then add your own toppings. So that was really cool. But that's good inspiration. Maybe that's what I'll do next. So now we're on to broccoli. So fun fact about broccoli, especially for all my California friends out there, is that California is the biggest producer of broccoli in the entire United States and consumes about 90% of the broccoli consumed in the U.S. So that's pretty cool. That's a lot of broccoli for California to produce. So go California. So California does produce a lot of the produce that we consume in the United States. So it's not surprising, but it is pretty cool. So we're just getting our little broccoli pieces down to about that size. It's a little bit bigger than a chickpea, but they'll cook down, and it's kind of hard to get broccoli that small. Some other interesting things about broccoli. I talked about this last time, but broccoli is also a really great source of vitamin C and a lot of different B vitamins, vitamin A, and anything that's green is good for you. And for the most part, not everything, never everything. So broccoli is really good. Also, broccoli has a lot of protein per pound. Now, the issue with that is that you're often not eating a lot of broccoli at once, so you're not getting a lot per serving. But in theory, based on its biochemical composition, it has quite a bit of protein per pound or per weight. And broccoli was actually brought over into the United States not too long ago in the span of human existence. It was brought over to the United States in the 1800s from Italian immigrants coming to the United States. So we can thank the Italians for broccoli. So almost got all this chopped up. All right, so all of our broccoli is done. So we're gonna throw that in here, our big mixing bowl. And next is our chickpeas. So I pre-cooked some chickpeas ahead of time from dry chickpeas that I had around the house, but you can also use canned. So you're gonna use roughly about three cups. I used about 1.5 cups of dry chickpeas, and then after cooking them, they came out to about 3 cups, so roughly. So we're gonna dump that in there. And actually, let's see, so I'm gonna mix that up and just see how much, oh yeah, that's a pretty good amount of chickpeas. You can also throw in more chickpeas if you like it more chickpea heavy, or you want some more protein, whichever fits. All right, so now for our seasoning for our vegetable and chickpea mix. So I'm gonna look at the recipe so that I can remind myself. We're gonna start with 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Which might just finish off my olive oil. So we're just gonna dump the rest in. And then 2 tablespoons of soy or tamari. Oh, it says tamari, but it should say tamari, or thanks, autocorrect, or Bragg's aminos. So all of this is just to add some salt. So I'm using some gluten-free tamari. So we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of that. And then one thing I said in my video last week, which I'll probably say in almost every video because it's really one of my biggest cooking tips, is that a really great way to make a dish pop is to mix some kind of acid and some sweetness. So we're going to add lime later. It's not going on right now, but lime's going to be our acid. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of maple syrup to kind of balance that out. And those flavors, for whatever reason, really complement each other and really just make a dish, like I said, pop, and just really takes it to a whole nother level. So we're gonna add in our maple syrup and then some spices. So we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of chili powder. Two teaspoons of chili powder, and then 1 teaspoon. Grab the paprika first. We're gonna do paprika. I'm using smoked paprika because I love smoked paprika. It says 1 teaspoon, but honestly, I don't even think you could overdo paprika. So I'm gonna do a heaping teaspoon. Next is 1 teaspoon of cumin. And then half a teaspoon of coriander. And coriander, if you didn't know this, is actually just cilantro. Cilantro seeds ground up. So that's what coriander is. All right. And that's everything. So then the recipe says cayenne pepper to taste. I actually don't. My composition doesn't really tolerate cayenne all that well, so I'm not going to add it, but feel free to go for it. So this is what we're going to start with. The garlic and the lime one's going to come later, kind of halfway through. We're going to add that stuff. So let's start with this for now. Now, this is eventually going to go on a big baking sheet, so I'm going to grab my baking sheet. All right, we're going to mix this all together. Gosh, the spices smell so good. All right, so once you have things pretty evenly coated, you can spread them out on a baking sheet, and we're going to throw them in the oven. Now, since my hands are, you don't have to mix that with your hands. I just find if I do it with my hands, I like the feeling and I like to touch it. I like to get my hands dirty. So I like it, but you can also use a spoon if you don't want to get your hands dirty, or maybe if you're cooking for other people that maybe don't want your germs all over their food. I understand that. I'm the only one who's going to be eating this, so it doesn't matter, but for others it might. So we're gonna spread this out. It's quite a bit. This made a lot, so I probably could have put this on 2 different baking sheets, but I actually like it when it's pretty thick because it kind of keeps things a little bit more moist. If you want things dry and a little bit more toasted, you can spread them out on things. On like 2, split this in half and spread it on 2 different cooking pans. Just gonna wash my hands real quick. And perfect timing because my oven just warmed up, even though I didn't start it earlier. So this is great. So we're gonna get this put in the oven. So this first round, so we're gonna kind of cook this in 2 rounds. So the first round is about 20 minutes. So I just set a timer for 20 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm gonna show you guys how to make my very own recipe, mango salsa. So I love mangoes, I love salsa, and I love the 2 things combined even more. So we are gonna make some. In the kitchen, the recipe itself, they have a recipe for some fire roasted salsa. So that's an option if you have the book. Like I said, I like mangoes, so I like to make mango salsa. So that's what we're going to do today. So first, we're going to start. I said heirloom tomatoes. I think with salsa, because you're making it raw, it really matters, like your ingredients and the flavor of your ingredients really matter. And I often find that heirloom tomatoes have much more rich flavor than just any other tomato. So I like using heirloom tomatoes for salsa, but you don't have to. You can literally use any tomato. You can use cherry tomatoes for a different flavor, beefsteak tomatoes. Roma tomatoes are also good. They kind of sometimes they can come out a little mealy, but also work. So today we're using some beautiful heirloom tomatoes. So first we're going to chop up some tomatoes, and you can chop them up however you want in terms of size of pieces of tomato. I like my pieces a little bit smaller so that I kind of spreads it out a little bit more. And it's a little bit more, I would say, like watery of a salsa, but you can make them big and make your salsa chunky as well, kind of more like a pico de gallo. And then if you want it really like watery or liquidy, you can even put it in a blender or a food processor and then get it even more. Now, some fun facts about tomatoes is that, and this is I apologize for this joke ahead of time. Most of you have probably already heard it. It's very punny. It's a dad joke, so again, I'm sorry. But I will say that knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. But funny enough, on that point, so I was looking up some information about tomatoes, and I discovered that tomato is actually the state vegetable of New Jersey. So it's kind of funny that New Jersey would make it a vegetable instead of a fruit, but it is a state vegetable of New Jersey, and it is the state fruit of Ohio. And tomato juice is actually the beverage of Ohio or something. Anyway, I didn't realize that Ohio loved tomatoes so much that they made it both their state fruit and vegetable, and beverage. And then you have Arkansas, which Arkansas has their own prized variety of tomato. And for them, that specific variety of tomato is both the state vegetable and the state fruit. So they just decided to go with both. So that's pretty cool. Things you never thought you would know about produce. All right, so we're getting this all cut up. Now, tomatoes are really, really healthy for you. They're really good. They have, what makes them red so last week we were talking about phytonutrients, and I kept bringing up phytonutrients. So phytonutrients, phytoplant nutrient, something that's good for you. So these are all things, properties, chemicals, proteins, the various things in vegetables that make them healthy and good for you. So lycopene is one that is in high amounts in tomatoes. And lycopene is an antioxidant. And lycopene and antioxidants are really good for heart health. And also, they have a lot of anti-cancer properties. So tomatoes are really awesome. Tomatoes are also a really good source of vitamin A, vitamin C, again, calcium and potassium. So really awesome. I'm going to try to switch up what I say every week so y'all can learn different things about vegetables instead of the same thing every week. But tomatoes are awesome. I will just repeat one thing, and I said it at the beginning as well, is that vegetables are a really great way to boost your immune system in times where maybe there's a threat out there to your immune system, or just in general for prevention of disease. So including fresh fruits and vegetables in your everyday cooking is a really great way to boost your immune system without having to take anything or do anything extra. It's literally just the food that you're putting in your mouth. Like I said, those phytonutrients are really good for many things, and a lot of them help boost the immune system, help your immune system work better, have antimicrobial properties themselves, so they can help fight off viruses and bacteria. So really good. Always a plug for more vegetables in the diet. I really don't think that you can eat too many vegetables. I think you would get sick of them before you ate too much. So don't worry about eating too many vegetables. All right, so we have all our tomato chops. So I'm going to throw this in the bowl. And then next, we're gonna cut up some mango. So I put in the recipe about 1 cup of mango because not all mangoes are created equal in size. So you have big mango. This is a Kent mango, but you have keep mangoes, which are even bigger. You have champagne mangoes, which are smaller. So I said roughly about a cup of mango. And so I think mangoes are another fruit that can also be daunting to people to cut. Or to eat, because there's kind of like an awkward pit in the middle, and what do you do with the skin? So I'll just show you guys how I cut mangoes, and I found it to work pretty well. So I kind of like start in the middle, and I cut down, and then I kind of like angle the knife to go around the pit on one side, and then angle it back in to get back on the other side. So you end up with this, and then another piece like this. Now, if I were to eat this mango just whole, what I do is I score it into big chunks like that, and then I do chunks like this, and then I just and then cut it all the way down to the skin carefully, so you don't cut through and cut your hand. But then I just pop it out and kind of like make all the pieces stick up, and just eat them right off of that. So that's how I eat mango usually. Now today, since I'm cutting it up and putting it in something, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take this big piece of mango, and I'm first going to just peel the skin off using a paring knife. So we're just going to peel the skin off. So I unfortunately don't have any fun facts about mangoes for you guys today, but maybe next time. All right, so now we have the skin off. We're just going to chop this in small chunks again. And I know it's not really mango season. I didn't really think about that when I chose the recipe. It's not really tomato season either, but you know, we live in such a global world that we can get these things year round. So that's cool, but also not good for the environment. So I think in the future, I'll focus more on kind of seasonal things. But mangoes are just starting to come into the markets, or even the markets that usually get more seasonal ingredients, like our local health food co-op. So it's not too bad. A lot of the produce, at least on the West Coast, comes from Mexico, which isn't too far away. A lot of the produce on the East Coast tends to come from Spain and Europe, so that's a little bit further away, if you care about eating locally at all. All right, so I'm going to throw the mango in. For me, that mango was massive, so I used about half of it. But if you're using a smaller mango, you might need to use the whole thing. Next is we're going to chop some red onion. I like to use smaller pieces of red onion because I'm not a huge fan of like getting a big chunk of red onion in my mouth. But if you like that, then you can cut your onion as big as you want. And again, plug for compost. Love collecting all of my vegetable bits in a bowl. We happen to have a compost outside that goes back into our garden once a year. So if you have the ability to do that, that's great. Otherwise, a lot of cities are starting to accept green plant waste or vegetable waste in the green trash can. And so you can collect your compost and put it in your green trash can to take out with the city. And so you don't have, so it doesn't end up in landfills and it can go back into the ground in one way or another. Not all cities do that. And then so just make sure to check with your city before you start throwing stuff in the green trash can because not all of them like that you do that. So. Okay, so now we have our red onion all chopped up. And so we're gonna throw that in. I'm just trying to, as I dump it in, trying to break up the pieces a little bit more. So next is cilantro. Beautiful cilantro. Some people don't like cilantro. It has a soapy flavor to them. So if you're one of those people, you can just leave this out. And I understand. But I love cilantro. So I'm going to throw it in. Now, sometimes if I'm feeling in the mood, I will actually pick out all the stems and be really specific and tedious about which leaves I use. But because I'm not going to waste your time doing that today, I'm just going to cut it right off the stalk. And then just throw away kind of the ends where it's mostly stalk and not a lot of leaf. So we'll get to about there. And yeah, there's still some more leaves on. Maybe I can pick a couple of those off. Otherwise, it's not a big deal. It's going in the compost anyway. So you're going to chop that up. Now, it's always hard with leafy things like this to say, like, what's a cup? What's a half cup? So you could roughly estimate it. So this looks like about a cup pre-chopped, and I know that when I chop it, it's going to get smaller, and so it'll be about a half a cup. cilantro is going to go in. And next, we have some jalapeno. So if you want it a little bit spicier, you can leave the leaves or the seeds in. If you want it a little bit less spicy, you can take the seeds out. So today, I'm going to take the seeds out. You can do this with a knife. It's a little precarious what I'm doing, so I would actually use a spoon and kind of scrape them out. I'm a little cavalier sometimes with my knife skills. Sorry, Dad. All right, and then again with the cilantro, I like to cut my pieces of jalapeno really small so that it spreads out. And also, I'm not a huge fan of spicy food, so this kind of makes the spice spread out more. But if you love spicy food and you want bigger chunks of jalapeno, go for it. You can do 2 jalapenos. You can add more cayenne. You can do other peppers, serrano or habanero. Our jalapenos are going. And now we're going to peel a bunch of garlic. Not only do we need garlic for this recipe for the salsa, but we also need some garlic for our tacos. And we're going to add that in about 5 minutes when it is ready for the next step. So I highly, highly recommend a garlic press. It saves a lot of time and energy from peeling all or from hand chopping all the garlic, but you do what you can if you don't have a garlic press. Also, I recommend doing, I didn't do this today, so do what I say and not what I do. But I actually recommend doing your garlic as one of your first steps. One of the properties of garlic, there's something called allicin in it, or allicin in it. And when you crush it and when you break the cell wall of the garlic, that really activates that phytonutrient in it, and it's one of the ones that has the antimicrobial properties and is anti-inflammatory. So you really want to maximize the benefit of the garlic that you're using. So it needs, when you break that cell wall, it activates enzymes that kind of give it the most healthy potential it can. And then it has to sit and kind of let those processes happen for about 10 minutes. So if you can cut your garlic or mince your garlic 10 minutes before you need it, you can really maximize the health benefits from your garlic. Garlic, again, is something super antimicrobial, really good for health. Last week, I didn't have fresh garlic because all of the stores were out. This week, another store was out, and so I did not, I went and for whatever reason, organic garlic's hard to come by, so I got non-organic. I just got regular garlic. But garlic is one of those things that is not as important to get organic. I like supporting the organic movement, organic farmers, so I always get organic produce if possible. But in terms of health risk, there's not a lot of pesticides used in growing garlic. So if you were to compromise and not get organic garlic, it's one of the cleaner things, one of the cleaner growing processes. So it's not as big of a deal. If you're interested at all in what to eat organic and what not to eat organic, there's an incredible website called the Environmental Working Group, and every year they put out a list called the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen, and it's kind of a guide to, if you're in the supermarket and you want to know what's important to get organic and what's not important, you can use their guide to focus on things that are more important to eat organic. And usually you can tell two things. One is that there are certain produce items that use more pesticides in the growing process, and so that can factor in. Also, if you eat the skin of something, it is more important that you buy organic so that you're not getting things that are stuck on the skin. So something like an apple would be more important to get organic than a mango per se, like the one I use, because I'm not eating the skin of a mango, but you do eat the skin of an apple or strawberries. Okay, so almost done. And garlic is one of those things, like, I really don't think that you can, I mean, you can't use too much of garlic. Like, I've definitely had dishes with too much garlic, but it's really hard to get there. So this recipe calls for 4 cloves in one part of the recipe and 3 in the other, but you can do as much as you want. I think it's more important to follow the recipe when you're doing raw garlic, because the flavor of raw garlic is so strong and it's hard to hide with other things. But when you're using cooked garlic, you can really go to town before someone notices. And really great to keep away the vampires. So I have this awesome garlic press, makes this go really quickly, which is nice. And as you can see, I'm creating quite a pile of garlic here. Oh, there we go. Done with round 1. So I'm going to finish getting this turned off. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take out, we're going to take the vegetables out of the oven. And we are going to sprinkle some garlic all around and then mix it up and then throw it back in. So I'm going to clear off my space so I have some space to do that. It's looking really good. So I'm going to take some garlic. Just going to kind of sprinkle it around a little bit, get a little spread out. We're going to mix this in more though, so don't worry about that. And we'll kind of mix around the garlic, get it mixed in. You can also mix in the garlic at the beginning. It might make it easier. You don't have to kind of take it out halfway, but it just kind of keeps the garlic a little bit more fresh and not as cooked. You can kind of give a nice, more garlicky flavor. Get that mixed in. Kind of also gives you an opportunity to get your pan a little mixed up. All right, and then we'll just spread this back out. And then we're going to throw it back in the oven for about 15 more minutes. All right, so as that's finishing, we're going to finish our salsa. So one thing we need to add is some lime. So I have knives that if you leave acid on them, it kind of stains the knife. So I have to clean it off real quick. So I'm going to do the juice of one whole lime. I love lime juice, and I love the flavor of lime, so I'm going to do a bunch of lime. Lime. Then we're going to add in our garlic. And then maybe a little cumin, just for some flavor. Cumin is really nice to add to salsa and to guacamole. Adds a nice little extra flavor. And then some salt and pepper. Making sure I didn't forget anything. And then you can measure this if you'd like. I'm a big fan of not measuring things, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Usually does. Great. And now we're going to mix all that in together. And now you have mango salsa to put on top of your tacos. So get that mixed in really well. And then as the filling for the tacos is continuing to cook, what we're going to do is warm some tortillas. So I'll show you how I like to warm tortillas. And then also, it's also a good time to get any other toppings you want to put on there. So some people like to throw greens on there. You could do a slaw. We made salsa. Guacamole is another good thing. I just got some avocado. Some more cilantro is good. So you could really put anything. My fiance loves putting kimchi on tacos. So you can put kimchi on tacos also. Make it a taco fusion. All right. So when you're done, you get salsa. It looks kind of like that. So we're going to put this to the side. Clean up our workspace a little bit. Now, if I was cooking with somebody, I would actually have them start on warming up the tortillas ahead of time. It does end up taking longer than you think it does if you do it the way that I do them. So it's something that I usually end up working on ahead of time or delegating to somebody else. But I'm only going to heat up a couple because it's only me tonight. So now you get to come with me to the stove. So I usually get a pan. I have a pan that's almost about the size of a tortilla, so I like using this. You can use a bigger pan though, or you can use a griddle. So I just get some low heat on that. You get your tortillas. And then just throw a tortilla on there. And what you're going to do is you're going to cook them for about a couple minutes on each side. You can do it until they kind of start to brown on one side, or they kind of start bubbling up a little bit. And then I have a really nice trusty tortilla warmer, or a warm tortilla vessel. But anything else will do. You can put them in a bowl with a lid over them. There's some like tortilla pocket things that you can buy to keep them warm. But anything really to just kind of keep them warm after you heat them up, because like I said, I won't usually do one at a time, so it usually takes a little bit of time. So to keep them warm in the meantime. And as that's going, I'm going to get an avocado ready. So this one's about ready to be flipped. So you see, like a couple minutes. You can flip them. You don't have to use your hands. A little bit hot if you use your hands, but so you can use a fork or a spatula or anything like that. So while we're kind of waiting, we're kind of gotten to the point where we have about 5-7 minutes left on the veggies in the oven. We're just warming up tortillas. Does anybody have any questions, either about the recipe, the food that we're eating, or about anything in general? Ooh, this one's getting a good little bubble on it. All right, so now that one's done, throw on another one. So I really appreciate you guys all coming and spending the afternoon with me or the evening with me cooking tonight. If you have any requests or recommendations or anything you'd love to see me cook in the future, please feel free to drop it in the comments. Definitely open to requests. I usually try to focus on recipes that I can make in big batches and save for later, like I said earlier, so that I don't have to cook every time, but not entirely opposed to doing something different also. So I think 3 tacos is probably the maximum that I will eat tonight. So I'm only going to heat up 3 tortillas. Now for the last step of the veggie mixture, we're going to add lime to it and kind of do another mixture. So while I'm waiting for this, I'm just going to cut a lime and have that ready. And then tortillas, if you're a single person eating alone, tortillas keep in the freezer. So you could, oh, I'm supposed to scroll. Oh, wow. I didn't even see all these. There's been questions. I wasn't scrolling for me. Awesome. Okay, let me see. Okay, so Simon asked earlier. Sorry, guys, I didn't see these questions. It wasn't scrolling ahead for me, so I missed these. So why tamari versus soy? Yeah, so tamari is a type of soy sauce. Traditional soy sauce is grown. It actually has to do with the wheat content. So traditional soy sauce is not gluten-free. It has to do with the fermenting process. They use wheat in the fermenting process. So tamari is a wheat-free soy sauce, but it's not soy-free. Bragg's Aminos, they do have a soy version, but they also have a soy-free version. So if you're trying to avoid soy, I would check out Bragg's. I do have to put a plug. The Bragg Foundation, I did get a scholarship from them one time when I was a student, so I did make money off of them, but that's not why I recommend their products. They have great products. But in full disclosure, I did get a scholarship from them one time, so they're a nice company, and they're really happy to support naturopathic medicine, so I really appreciate that. But yeah, so that's why you would use tamari versus soy, is more for the gluten versus the soy. Another question is, where did I get the garlic press? So the garlic press is, this is a brand called Rosely. You can see that. Rosle. It's not an American company. I almost want to say it's like German or Swedish or something like that. And it's a pretty heavy duty. It's on the more expensive side of garlic presses, but it will literally last you the rest of your life. So it's a really good company. A lot of our kitchen our kitchen utensils and things we use are Rosely, and they've lasted us really, really well. So I would recommend Rosely. And then Yeti asked, what's my favorite thing to cook? Ooh. That's a really hard one. I'd say instead of a favorite dish, I have a favorite meal, which is my favorite meal to cook is breakfast. I love making breakfast for people. I love making scrambles, whether it's egg or tofu. I love making French toast. I love making pancakes. I love making breakfast potatoes. So my favorite thing to cook is breakfast. But it's not breakfast time. Maybe one time we'll do a breakfast for dinner. And we can make some breakfast foods that I love. But yeah, so thank y'all for the questions. We just have 30 more seconds on the clock on this. So I'm going to get this ready. If you have any questions, feel free to continue asking them. I'd be happy to answer them. I'm going to get a plate ready too, so I can eat. Great, so we're going to take this out of the oven. I'm going to move you guys back over here. So now we have our veggie mixture. And the last thing we need to do is to add some lime. So we're going to take our citrus press again. And you can also add it to your taco and then add lime, but I'm just going to add lime now. So we're just going to kind of sprinkle that all around. And again, I like things pretty limey, so I'm going to use another half of a lime, but If you don't like things very light, you can just do 1/2. And then we're gonna mix it up. All right, and now we have our taco filling. So it's pretty hot still, and it drops a little bit on the ground. So I'm gonna grab a tortilla. And add some taco filling. I'm gonna add a little bit of salsa. Some avocado. Maybe just a little bit more cilantro. And we're good to go. Again, I'm not a food photographer. I am not a gourmet chef, so my food doesn't look maybe as amazingly presentable as some other things out there on the internet, but it's real, and I just made it, and you just watch me, and now we're gonna eat together. So let's see how this tastes. Came out good. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. I hope you learned something fun. I hope you join me in the future. Again, if you have any more questions or comments, I can hang out for that. Otherwise, I'll let you off into the world. And stay tuned. We'll probably do another one next week. So have a great rest of your night, and thanks again for tuning in.